AI feels so confident, even when it gets wrong. Why does it happen? In the last episode, Mr. Kang asked to explore how AI doesn't build itself. Behind every model is a lot of human workforce, judgment, and data shaping. Today, we will take a closer look at how AI gets delusional. So, let's start with the question. When you write a prompt or a question to AI, what do you expect the process is? You might think the process is thinking, reasoning, or checking facts. Actually, this is what they do. Predicting the most likely next token based on the probability distribution. Probability distribution means the model will assign the likelihood to every next possible token. A token here means a piece of text, and the probability distribution will choose the one that's statistically most likely. We know the process now. We need to be clear that what these models are actually designed to do. Language models are not trained to understand the world like the human sense. They are trained to predict the next token. For example, a model doesn't truly understand what a cat is. Like human does, it builds a rich internal representation of a cat. Its shapes, its sound, its behavior, the way it appears in pictures. However, because model is always trying to produce the most plausible next token, it will generate the next answer. Even if it doesn't actually know the fact or when certainty is impossible. It sounds right, but it's wrong. And that's what we call hallucination. So now I will walk you through 4 reasons why AI gets hallucination. Reason number 1. Gaps in training data. Hallucination happens when the model doesn't actually know something, like they don't have data, they have never trained about it before, and they also don't have built-in trust checking to control the verify the information. And you know what? LLMs don't check facts. They just generate whatever sounds the most plausible based on what they have seen in the patterns before. So when the topic is rare and barely shows up in the training data, maybe a specific dialect, rare medical terms, the model will fill in the blanks. And that filler can sound polished or confident, but still can be totally wrong. And to be honest, I've been working in this field for a while, and I see how big this problem is. My team in LTS Global Digital Service work on several projects where we constantly have to work on validating, processing, labeling, and over the time, even the technology is developed, is improved, there was still so many data that still need refining and the human support. Another reason of hallucination happen is the internet is full of both truth and misinformation, and AI model, they see all of it. The problem is the model doesn't have its own mechanism to decide what is actually true. It just has one giant set of learned weights that compress all of this information. So when it sees conflicting source, it's trying to generate an answer that sounds coherent, but can lead to a mix of different sources mashed together. You can imagine like the model is averaging the information it sees. Now we come to the 3rd reason of hallucination. Models often generalize patterns that are true most of the time, but not in every case. For example, a model might know that most of error messages in code are syntax errors. It sees a new bug that is actually a log error, but it might confidently suggest a syntax fix anyway. Or it might generate a historical fact that sounds plausible, like a made-up inventor update, because it's drawing on a pattern it has seen, even though it's not true. So hallucination often come from patterns that are true 80% of the time, but maybe wrong in your specific case. Another factor, AI's models are trained to be helpful and keep the conversation going. Techniques like reinforcement learning from human feedback teach models to prefer responsive and are informative, polite, and user-friendly. That means when the model isn't sure about the fact, it often tries to generate a plausible answer rather than saying, I don't know. And this intends to make the model more useful, but also increase the chance of hallucination. It's producing something that sounds reasonable, not necessarily something that's true. And there are researchers, Cristiano and OpenAI in 2017 and 2023, shows that the alignment objectives help the model to behave more safely and usefully, but they don't eliminate hallucination. So we understand why. The next question is, how do companies actually deal with this mistake and make AI more reliable? Okay, so now we will come to the first solution. One of the most powerful tools is retrieval augmented generation, or we can say RAG. Instead of letting the model answer purely from its memory, RAG makes it look things up before answer, like read the real documents, trusted databases, community knowledge bases. And that is how AI becomes less of a wild guesser. So for example, in healthcare, there's a model called MegaRAG, uses multiple evidence sources like biomedical graphs plus dense retrieval can cut hallucinations dramatically in medical QA. Okay, and the second one is human feedback. We're talking about reinforcement learning from human feedback. Human rate whether generated responses are good, correct, useful, or safe or not. And over the time, the model learns what to prefer based on our suggestion. And even it can accidentally reward fluency or confidence over the correctness. It's still used by major AI players like ChatGPT or InstructGPT of OpenAI. And they usually turn with ARHF to reduce harmful or inaccurate outputs. Then we come to the domain-specific fine-tuning, teaching AI only from, say, medical techs or software development domain, so its answers stay somehow more accurate in that specific world. And fine-tuning a general model on specific data help adjust and reduce hallucination because the model learns the patterns that are very relevant to a particular field. And plus, in the real world, AI teams don't just train one. They model behavior, collect the hallucination outputs during the actual use, and then feed them back into the system with human review. And beyond these, there are many ongoing initiatives to make model more aligned, more factual, more trustworthy. But at the end of the day, there's one thing that doesn't change. Humans are still the one making sure AI stays on track. So, why we care about hallucination? Because AI is entering fields that accuracy is not optional. Healthcare, finance, coding, legal analysis, or education. We have heard on the news several news like AI tutoring giving wrong information or AI assistant generating fake citation. So we understand why AI makes mistakes, help us understand where AI can be trusted and where humans need to stay in the loop. That is all for today's episode. Thank you for listening. I will see you in the next one. Bye!